Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm continuing off Bigfoot Terror Tales Vol.1 chapter Grandpa versus Bigfoot. Let's get into it, shall we? Yellow Willie's your name now. That was a Sasquatch monster back there, Fritz. That's what the Injuns said, too. Curtis announced softly, still intently aiming his shotgun up the dirt path. Where's the Injuns at? Fritz asked. After that second roar sounded, them two let out of here like their rears was on fire. They called it the Sasquatch and said it was angered. A Sasquatch, just like the Injuns told us. I thought they were trying to spook us with their ghost stories, Willie said. Nothing came out of the bushes charging toward them. The three men stood by the cabin entrance with guns raised. The campfire was starting to dim, casting an ominous red glow upon the land around them. The pack mules were tied up nearby, quietly pushed up against each other in a huddle, sensing something lingering in the forest. We saw a Sasquatch, Willie started again, and you shot it. It wasn't even hurt. It just got madder. Yep. You shoot at a Sasquatch and injure them, they'll be coming out for your blood now and tear you apart for wounding them. I hit that thing dead center, Fritz spoke quietly. The Injuns said those monsters live further up the mountain. They said don't ever bother them and they'll just leave you alone. Well, you set the trap that it stepped in. I think it was bothered already by the time it saw us. You shot him, Fritzy. The Injuns say Sasquatch can't be killed. We got to get out of here before that thing comes back looking to get even. Hell bells, Curtis said. I only heard one gunshot between the two of you. If that thing's as fearsome and big as y'all say, then you just need to shoot it to Dutch. I mean, you don't shoot a grizzly just once, do you? You open up with everything you got. Anything living can be killed. You didn't see it, Curtis. It wasn't natural. It was a demon incarnate. Listen, you two, Curtis said calmly. Have you ever heard about Sasquatch before? Fritz pondered and nodded his head. Yeah, a couple of times out in the saloons just from prospectors and lumberjacks, but no one believes the stories those old coots tell. How about you, Willie? I heard it before, the Injuns from a couple railroad men, but their story just didn't seem truthful, like they were talking about dragons or something. Exactly. Nobody believes this thing is real unless they see it with their own eyes. You boys say you saw the Sasquatch monster up there, and I'm inclined to believe you. I'm saying that if we haul a Sasquatch carcass back into town, we're going to be national known men, like Andrew Jackson or Carnegie. Willie and Fritz looked at each other, muttering and shaking their heads. Willie's moody eyes were downcast in shame, and Fritz was still shaking from his hasty retreat. Curtis continued, I even heard Barnum and Bailey Circus would pay $10,000 for any creature never before seen. We wouldn't have to work another day in our lives. Willie's shaking head halted and he raised his eyes. Nobody has that kind of money to toss around. Believe it? I heard that P.T. Barnum has more money than every man in Europe put together. That is true. When P.T. Barnum got into the circus business, he started racking up a whole heap of money. And look where the circus is at today with the new owners. But anyway, let's continue with the story. Fritz contemplated Curtis's words and kicked around the glowing edges of the campfire embers. I don't care how much Barnum's worth. You need an army to take that thing down. Not just the three of us. Yellow Willie here was scared off with one look. I was just surprised, it's all, Willie said defensively. I wasn't expecting no Sasquatch to be sitting in our backyard. I tell you what, I'm with Curtis now. I'm going to redeem myself. I ain't letting you call me Yellow Willie no more. Fritzy, don't let us down, or your name's going to be Yellow Fritz. Curtis glared at him as he spoke. Sister of mercy, I'll go. But if Willie runs again, I'm hightailing it back to town with or without y'all. Curtis beamed and bounced up and down on the edge of his faded leather boots. Curtis was the oldest of the three young men, but Fritz thought he was also the most impetuous. His judgment didn't extend further than a silver coin on a stick. Fritz felt a portentous foreboding the way the sky steals before a twister hurtles down. Each man took stock of his weapons. Curtis gave Willie his shotgun and went into the cabin to load up his hunting rifle. A long trapdoor Springfield. Fritz scanned the murky woodland surrounding them, then followed Curtis into the cabin. To get his buck knife, an extra shot for his gun, Willie holstered his revolvers and paused by the fire pit, cradling the shotgun and imagined himself standing under a waterfall of currency pouring down upon him, paper bills with the profile of P.T. Barnum on each face. Right now, these guys are in a serious situation. All this guy cares about is money from P.T. Barnum. You can worry about that later when you get a Bigfoot body. Jeez. Just worry about getting the guns and go. Willie struck up a little humming whistle, an army melody which he could not place a name to. He spat into the fire, an owl hooted nearby, and then promptly halted in mid-call. The forest went silent, but for a rustling through the boughs, Willie caught the downward draft scent of a pungent odor. He raised the shotgun and searched quickly in all directions, waving his head from right to left like a flag unfurled in the wind. Fritz, Curtis, he hissed faintly, something's out here. The two other men anxiously popped their heads out from the shelter of the doorway. A whistling, winding sound grew from the ghostly darkness, and a granite boulder the size of a Conestoga wagon wheel rocked through the air, striking and decapitating poor Willie. The boulder slammed into him so hard his head crumbled up like a rotten flapjack and popped clean off his scrawny, unshaven neck. The shorn body flipped a cartwheel into the night time and fell in a limp pile of splayed limbs, half in the fire pit. Immediately his flannel shirt and greasy skin started to smolder and burn. Fritz and Curtis gasped in horrific duet. They fired their guns into the forest where the boulder had departed, but the black forest shadows were many, and the shadows were ominous and great. Grandpa, I have to tinkle, Freddie said. Tinkle? Yes. You gotta take a piss? Yes, Grandpa. Well, why didn't you just say so? I did. Grandpa shook his head in puzzlement, and the two expectantly looked at each other, each waiting for the other to say something else. Grandpa gave in first. Are you asking for my permission? No, I just didn't want to have to interrupt your story. Well, go, boy. When a feller's got to relieve himself, there's no use in debating the issue. Freddie hopped off the sagging linen couch and trotted to the small paneled bathroom outside of the living room. Grandpa sighed. Freddie was his only grandchild, and he often despaired to think the boy didn't have the sense of two toddlers. He loved the kid, but just wished he wasn't coddled so much by his parents. He decided spontaneously that he was going to show Freddie the box. A warm excitement rolled across his chest as the thought. He stood up, old bones creaking, and walked over to an incense cedar hope chest, quietly slumbering in the corner under a quilted comforter. Grandpa's wedding picture was on top, a sepia-tone portrait of him and Ruth. She had loved him despite the loss of his hand. Maybe she loved him more because of it. She was the kind of woman to love a bird with a broken wing because of its frailty. He got along fine one-handed. There was nothing Grandpa Fritz couldn't accomplish that two-handed folks could. But he felt his disability most when he had embraced his wife. He lamented that he could only wrap one good arm around her and caress the small of her back while he tucked his hooked hand neatly and coldly against his own side. Under albums of photographs and newspaper clippings lay a warped wooden box the size of a Sears catalog with a split running through the grain. On one side, it was musty and locked under tarnished brass fittings. He brought the box out and a small key on a chain. Freddie was back on the couch waiting for him when he returned. "What's that, Grandpa?" "It's something very special, and I reckon it's your birthright." "What's a birthright?" The old man felt his exasperation rise up, but took a moment to push it back into the dim recess where it simply lingered. He didn't want to get cross with the boy at the time like this. "It's like your inheritance. It's the heart of a Sasquatch." Freddie scrunched up his face in evident doubt, obviously not certain how to comprehend what his grandfather said or even how to respond. Grandpa continued, "You said there's no such thing as Sasquatch, and I say that there is. This here's the proof. Sasquatch may have taken my hand, but I got his heart. I cut it out myself. It was still beating 2 days later." Jeez Louise, it seemed like the heart wasn't ready to stop pumping. Quiet astonishment spread across Freddie's face, widening eyes, rippling to slackened jaw. He appeared to imagine the still strange content slumbering inside. "Can I see it?" "Yes, but you can't tell your father. Him and I ain't friendly about this matter." "Honor." "Honor?" Freddie's eyes grew even wider. Grandpa could not determine if those eyes were shimmering with fright or with excitement. "Okay, where was I?" "Right. So me and Curtis started shooting into the forest, but it was dark and everything was a great shadow that looked like it could be a Sasquatch monster and, Grandpa, but what about Bigfoot's heart?" What about it? Aren't you going to show me the box?" Yeah, Freddie. I said I would. I got to finish my story first, so you'll have an appreciation of it." "Oh, sorry." "It's all right. I reckon I'd be restless to see it, too." I hastened my words to get to the good part. Freddie resumed his position, sitting cross-legged sideways facing him. His eyes fluctuated between the old man's face and the wooden box, reverently held in his hand. "So me and Curtis stared shooting into the forest, but the black forest shadows were many and menacing and great. A monstrous bellow rose from the woods, and another slab of granite was hurled through the air. It crashed against the wall of the log cabin, accompanying a victorious wail, buckling the cross members inward with a splintering din. One shadow rose above all the others and stepped closer to the cabin. The three mules brayed in screaming fear, buckling at their leather tethers and kicking each other. The fire from the pit in Willie's headless body lit up in the image. Dancing waves of light spread across the Sasquatch face and chest. The beast stood with a limp, favoring one leg over the other. One of the legs was bloody and swollen above the ankle where the bear trap had skewered it. Its eyes glowed an insidious yellow with large black pupils staring down on the two men in the doorway. Curtis gasped and fired his Springfield rifle at the Sasquatch. A reprisal spiral of the creature's blood and black ooze flung once again into the night air. The beast grunted and grabbed its chest and lurched backwards. Fritz fired his Winchester, but could not tell if his shot was successful. They popped open the rifle breeches and loaded new shells, but the Sasquatch disappeared back into the shadows amongst crackling branches and fleeing rodents. "I got that bastard good," Curtis triumphantly declared. "We gotta go finish it off. I don't know. I'm hesitating to go out there. Willie's dead. I'm thinking we're out Just sit here till the sun's up. Sit here, frenzy. It's hurt. All we gotta do is pour some more buckshot into its hide and it's done for. We're gonna be the first ones that ever brought down a Sasquatch. You saw how easy Willie was just killed. It's a fool's mission chasing a demon in his own backyard. We owe it to Willie to get vengeance for him. You know, you ought to think of that guy pinning for. You and Roof be sitting pretty after this is done. Fritz paused and considered, his heart pounding like a bullfrog in heat. All right, but I'm going to venture out there too far. Curtis hopped out of the door with a cry of glee. He wore a bandolier of rifle cartridges slung loose across his chest. Next to Willie's corpse, he picked up a wood bow burning at the end from the fire pit and held it high in the air. Let's go get us a Sasquatch. Fritz sheathed a large buck knife into his rawhide belt and followed Curtis out into the nighttime carrying his rifle tightly like an amulet. He picked out a burning stick from the campfire as well in order to light their path. The new moon was waxing crescent and thin lemon rind in the sky. Little moonlight filtered down upon the murky ground below. The two men dodged quickly into the trees. Even if they did not have the torch light from the burning logs, it would have been effortless to follow the destructive path of torn brushes and snapped tree limbs left by the retreating creature. Fritz recognized the familiar upward slope of the mountain. He's heading back to where I first saw him, in the clearing, he whispered. He's heading home to hell, and we're going to hasten that journey, Curtis said. They reached the clearing amongst conifers. The gentle dirt path Fritz had earlier traveled ran parallel to the trail they were following now through the undergrowth across the clearing where the trees and shrubs grew thick again. The men saw a branch swing back, a dark movement in the gloomy woods. A quick snuffling ground barked out hoarse and laced with assurances of their mortal ruin. He's waiting for us, Fritz said. All right, I think I'm going to stop it right here. I'm going to try to finish this tomorrow, since this is the last chapter and there's only a few more pages left to go, and I didn't want to make this video too long. So that's going to be it for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications for more book reading content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.